Order the Lynchburg Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. The first order of business is the approval of the March 13th, 2024 minutes. Are there any additions or corrections?
Without any discussion, I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Alrighty, the next order of business is the following new business where we will hear the petition of Wards Road Development, LLC, to rezone approximately 2 3/10 acres at 2735, 2731, and 2739 Wards Road from I-2 Light Industrial District, B5 General Business District, and B5C General Business District Conditional to B5C General Business District Conditional to allow the construction of a gas station with a convenience store and a light auto repair facility. Rachel?
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of Planning Commission. As the Chair stated, the subject property is actually 3 parcels located along Wards Road and totals approximately 2 3/10 acres, and the purpose is to rezone for a gas station with a convenience store and light auto repair facility. The city's future land use map recommends community, commercial, and resource conservation uses for these properties. Community commercial areas often contain retail, personal service, entertainment, and restaurant uses that draw customers from at least several neighborhoods, the city, or the region. These areas contain often clusters of businesses at major intersections and shopping centers. Resource conservation areas encompass lands with special natural characteristics that limit land uses and development to protect the city's environmental health. These include our steep slopes, as well as the city's stream valleys and the slopes that accompany those stream valleys, and any connected wetlands and other adjacent significant features. If the petition is approved, the site will be redeveloped into a convenience store, approximately 6,000 square feet in size, with 12 fueling pumps. In addition, a light auto repair facility about 1,200 feet in size is proposed on the southern end of the property. The proposed traffic improvements shown on the concept plan will also be constructed by the petitioner per their voluntarily submitted proffer. The 4 existing entrances on Wards Road would be consolidated into one entrance to provide access to the development, and that entrance will be restricted to right turns only leaving the site. One full access entrance on Glass Avenue will be provided. A left turn taper, right turn taper, and medians are proposed to be installed in Wards Road as well. These improvements are consistent with the initiatives outlined in the STARS report, which is a ongoing study by VDOT in this area. The city's traffic engineer also concurred with these findings in the draft report. An erosion and sediment control plan and stormwater management plan would also be required prior to site plan approval. The submitted narrative indicates the use of underground detention to address stormwater quantity. The proposed work is very close to the limits of the floodplain along Rockcastle Creek, the tributary on the eastern side of the site. No filler work in the floodplain is proposed at this time. A flood study would be conducted as part of the design phase through the site plan review process if the rezoning is approved. If that study found that fill in the floodplain was necessary, that would require a separate conditional use permit from council. The proposed rezoning should have limited impact on the area and should fit in with the existing zoning of the surrounding properties. The proposed uses are pretty similar in nature to those that are nearby and those that have been on the site previously. The proffered improvements on Wards Road should mitigate any traffic impacts and improve safety in the corridor, and again, are in line with the draft recommendations from VDOT. The Planning Division recommends approval of the rezoning with the proffer outlined in your report. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Who is here to speak on behalf of this petition? Hi. You come forward and state your name and make sure you sign in, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Daniel Cyrus. I represent Wards Road Development, LLC. First, I want to take the opportunity to thank the Commission for hearing this item this afternoon. As Mr. Verschweisen pointed out, this project is proposing the use of a convenience store as well as a secondary use on this property. Currently, this property is zoned B5 conditional, B5, and I2. So the current proposal is actually a reduction in the zoning to B5 for the entire property. As was pointed out, we believe this proposal is congruent with the future land use map, which denotes this area as community, commercial, and resource conservation. All of the surrounding area is currently zoned B5 and B5 conditional, which is the requested zoning for this property. We are offering a voluntary proffer of substantial conformance with the submitted site plan that you see before you on the screen. We are offering that proffer primarily for an understanding of two parts. A big part of this project that we've worked closely with city staff on have been improvements along the Wards Road corridor. As was pointed out, there's an ongoing STAR study with VDOT that the city has been partnered with that is proposing medians throughout Wards Road as well as reductions in entrances along Wards Road. So there's three major traffic components that are a part of this proposal. Currently, there are 4 entrances on these 3 properties along Wards Road. We're proposing to close 3 of those 4 entrances and consolidate this down to 1 entrance. There is also currently no dedicated turn lane into these properties. We're proposing to channelize the turn lanes along Wards Road and provide dedicated turn lanes into this property, as well as actually provide a dedicated turn lane into the property that is across the street, which is not part of this proposal in any way, but is on the market for sale and could be potentially redeveloped in the future. So that's all part of our current proposal, which is outlined as recommended improvements as part of the STAR study, but would be completed using private funding rather than taxpayer dollars for those improvements. We're also proposing to widen Glass Avenue. Glass Avenue is the narrow road between the Cookout and the former Lynchburg car wash. So that road not widening would happen within the right-of-way, but that's also part of this proposal that would help circulation throughout this area for both this property and the adjacent properties. That being said, as I said, we've conducted a traffic study and city engineers reviewed and concurred with those findings. We're submitting this proposal. This is the convenience store. We're not at a point to where we can actually name the individual entity that is, but I can say that it's a nationally branded convenience store that I think will be quite prominent in the area if it comes to fruition. And myself, as well as the project engineer, are here to answer any questions that you may have about the proposal. And I'm sorry, one other thing I do want to add that I forgot to touch on. Ms. Verschweisen pointed this out, but there is no work that is proposed within the floodplain as part of this project. It is completely outside of the floodplain, and a flood study will be done as part of the site plan to confirm that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here to speak in favor of the petition? Is there anybody here to speak in opposition? At this point, the public hearing is closed, so commissioners can ask your questions for city staff or the petitioner.
I had a question about the zoning map. There's a pretty significant vacated corridor going through the middle of it. Can you talk a little bit about that, what that means, and is it even relevant?
So that would be a vacated portion of right-of-way, meaning it was formerly dedicated for a city street access, but I could check, but at some point,
Wards Road. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the old Wards Road.
yeah, you can
Yeah.
see kind of the remnant of it, where
Yep.
Glass Avenue turns would be the former Wards Road.
So does that disappear as part of this, or is it always going to say vacated?
It'll always say vacated. That's just how we map former right-of-ways that city council chose to vacate the city's interest in because it was no longer needed. And I can check the date on that if you're interested.
That's okay. No, that answered it. Thank you.
So I was wondering why, so if we're being asked to rezone this to B5C. Why not just B5?
That was a voluntarily submitted proffer. I'm assuming it is largely related to the traffic component. Daniel, I don't know if you want to speak to the logic.
Yeah.
Yeah, the primary logic behind it was just to hold the proffer to the traffic improvements that we're proposing along Wards Road. Frankly, the improvements that we're proposing are a little bit above and beyond what's required as part of the traffic study. So we wanted to have that as a condition that's a part of the property. So that's why we proffered it as general conformance.
Mm-hmm. And would it be reasonable to expect that the smaller auto repairs, like an oil change, that would be the hope?
The convenience store part of it is the part that's certain right now. So the site plan for the convenience store will not change. We do not have a tenant that's selected for the secondary parcel yet.
Right. So
that's part of the reason for the general conformance. But it would be a use that would be allowed in B5, and that would be one of those potential uses.
Right. Great, thanks.
Sure.
Quick question.
Sure.
The fuel canopy, it may seem like a redundant question, but is the fuel canopy going to be geared for, that section is kind of borderline where a lot of big trucks come through. Is it going to be geared toward mostly just regular
That's
traffic
correct. Yeah,
and
this
non-commercial?
convenience store is geared towards personal automobiles. It is not geared towards large trucks or anything like that. Very similar to other convenience stores on Wards Road.
Okay. I would add as a personal note, I drove past here the other day and was personally thinking, boy, wouldn't it be great if somebody came in and redeveloped that section?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it does.
Yeah.
Glass does have a stoplight.
Yes, sir. Yes, this is an existing signalized intersection. That's part of what was assessed in the traffic study. So another part of this will probably be some signal timings that'll need to be worked through that's associated with that. But the existing signalization is sufficient. The main issue in this area is just the width of Glass Avenue, and that's something that we're addressing. And that's part of the reason for the conditional zoning, is just to be able to have that as a proffer.
And so anyone turning north on Wards Road obviously has the option, but they'd have to go to Glass.
Correct.
To make the left-hand
Yes.
turn.
Yes, that's correct. Yep. Any other questions for us?
Did you say there'd be an entrance off of Glass?
Yes, sir. There's a full access. Can you go back to the access B in the rear is a full access entrance
Oh, I
off
see.
Glass Avenue.
Right
So
down there by Cookout.
yes, sir.
Right.
So the presumption, and that's part of the reason for widening Glass Avenue, is that a good majority of the traffic will actually utilize the signal at Glass and Wards.
I was going to say, is
you
there
know-
already something in place for is the widening going to encroach on Cookout's property?
No, the right of way is sufficient to allow for the
It
widening.
is? Because that's a problematic little section right there, if you've
It
ever gone to
is.
Cookout. So-
Yes, it is a very, very problematic section. And so our hope is part of that widening through there. And I think that's part of the issue, is that a lot of times when folks are turning out there, that it's not wide enough to actually get in the travel lane without blocking the entrance.
It's almost single lane.
And that causes a lot of congestion through there. So that's part of the reasoning behind the widening of Glass Avenue through there.
So, how many lanes on Glass Avenue? Is there just one for left, right, and straight, or is
There, yes, so there'll be 2 lanes, and one in either direction. But right now, Glass Avenue doesn't meet the city standards for a 2-lane road, essentially.
Okay. And there might be enough room, if you're lucky enough to be near the front of the line, that you could go to the right behind the first car. So it looks like it's pretty wide.
Right. Yes, ma'am. In the radius, there's some additional width there.
Okay.
And they would be able to make a right out of the entrance A as well.
Oh, that's
Right.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. The presumption is that anyone making a right in or certainly right out would use that entrance A. And then there's also a left turn lane to be able to make an entrance as a left turn in. But presumably anybody making a left turn out would probably want to use the signal. And I think that would be true no matter what, just because of the traffic volume. It's very difficult to make a left turn out of there other than at the signal.
That's the mall intersection.
Yes, sir.
Right there,
So I guess I was curious, like, you know, when I look at that, like, why isn't there a right turn lane on Glass? Like, it seems like the kind of volume that's on that road should have a right turn lane and a straight and left, because sometimes that gets really backed up.
That's more a problem for the.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I was wondering why is that? Why has the city not done anything with that? Is it just like an old road that has been like that for a long time?
That would be a question for our engineering division. You know, I don't know whether the problem just has not exceeded the point of making those improvements, or.
But the right of way would allow it if the city were to do that, like if there was still a traffic problem. Because I just can't imagine like someone wanting to turn right to go all the way through the facility. Though that's the only reason I asked, because you said people will probably go through Access A, but I would imagine that that's still going to be heavily traveled. So I don't think widening it's, in other words, I don't think that's doesn't hinge on my decision for sure, because I don't think it really changes the traffic at all.
Right.
Really.
I think the widening is more geared to address some of the existing trips out of Cookout. That's what causes a lot of the issues, is that
Yeah.
when people can't, because of the narrowness of Glass Avenue, when people can't get into the travel lane, they actually block the entrance as well. And so then that causes congestion on Wards Road as well. So, I mean, you're right, it doesn't solve all of the existing issues that are on Glass Avenue, but I think it will help alleviate some of those issues.
Right.
Does Glass Avenue, I don't know if the mall entrance is also Glass Avenue, but anyway, does Glass Avenue have its own green light separate from the
Yes.
mall?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.
Never been down there.
Well, and I think in terms of traffic, and it's mentioned in here, well, I mean, the goal is if you can reduce the number of entrances
Right.
along a road like this, that's big.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And eliminating 4, bringing it down to 1, and using glass is definitely a good step.
And I think, and this is really a big focus of that study that VDOT and the city are partnered on in this area of Wards Road, is creating those channelized turn lanes is also very helpful, because right now, a lot of times that center lane is just kind of used, you know, for anything essentially, right? And so right now there's that existing center lane, and there's also the way that the center lane works, which is the left turn lane into Glass Avenue. There's nothing that demarcates where that lane is at. So we're actually channelizing that as a part of this as well. So there'll be a raised concrete median there. So that'll help kind of address some of those. And I think when you look at the crash data and information on that, a lot of that happens because there's no demarcation of those turn lanes.
Yeah, I don't think until you head south and Ward, the two lanes, I mean, the two directions actually get separated with a median. I don't think there's anything like this
That's correct.
all along Wards. So
Correct. Yep.
It would be nice to see the impact and, you know, implementation farther along Wards.
And that's part of the STAR study, is to essentially implement this all the way down to where the divided median is. But again, I mean, I think this is beneficial because it addresses the concern now versus in several years when maybe there's funding to do that. And then when there is funding to do that, it's done on the private dime versus being done with public taxpayer dollars.
So thank you.
Well, you're welcome.
Well, I mean, it does make the proposal look better,
Absolutely.
without a doubt. And if other developers see that and how it can smooth things, the process, that's a good thing.
Right. Well, and I think that's the reason why we focus so much on it and have talked about it so much, is because obviously it's important, but I think just understanding, you know, this is a benefit on multiple levels. It fits from a zoning perspective. It's a benefit for public safety, and it's also a benefit to have the property redeveloped to its highest and best use versus, you know, the building that's in the center there that was a car dealership and was a restaurant, it's been several different things, has sat vacant for quite some time. And so I think it's an exciting opportunity to address quite a few issues at one time.
Yeah. And I think, I'm assuming it mentions stormwater is going to be addressed with underground retention.
Yes, sir.
Because we're not starting from scratch, you know, clearing an area.
Right.
It's going to be improvement over what's there now.
Yes, no, and that's a good point. So actually, the amount of impervious, there's a very, very minimal increase in the amount of impervious from what's there now.
Otherwise, I think we'd be talking about that more. But
Right.
it's going to be better than it is now.
Right. Yeah. And obviously, it'll be designed to the current standards, which are better than what it was originally designed to.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, everybody's pretty much said you've improved the property by having, I think by clearing up glass, you'll be able to have that remaining is yet to be determined.
Yes, sir.
I think it's going to be improved. You've improved ingress and egress from Ward's Road. I'm in favor.
Yes, sir.
I'd make a motion that we accept the proposal if there's no further discussion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good
Thank you
luck.
so much. Okay, I don't think we have any other business unless or no more motions unless there's any new business or old business that we need to discuss.
I'll just say this for the comp plan. We are targeting May 1st for Planning Commission's work session. So that would be at our normal 4 p.m. time. We have planned to work with you at a separate meeting than your normal one, so that you can really focus on the plan itself and not have to deal with land use issues at the same meeting. So I'm putting it out there now, May 1st. If you mark that on your calendars, we'll get you a calendar invite as well. But please let me know if you have any unchangeable conflicts. We definitely want to have as many members participating as possible. So we'll start out. We would do it at 4, your normal meeting time, if that's amenable. I mean, if we need to shift back or.
Yeah, I'm available
Okay.
on the 1st at 4.
Okay. Y'all can just take a look and email us.
Do you foresee it being a longer couple hours?
Maybe
Are we
not
going
for this.
through the comp plan, the proposed comp plan, or?
So we'll be doing a chapter or two at a time.
Okay.
So that's how we'll tackle it. The first meeting is a lot of background, existing conditions, public engagement, that sort of kind of a review for the beginning of the plan itself, and then we'll be getting more into recommendations and findings and things like that as we progress.
Okay.
So when you do that, is it, I remember us, I think it might have been the wireless policy where we had somebody actually kind of sit up and guide us through the entire policy. Is that kind of how it's going to be? You're going to
We'll
kind of go
have-
through a chapter, hit the major highlights, and then open up for questions or?
Yes, we will have the Berkeley group here with us, our consultant on the plan, who's helping us with a lot of the writing. They'll be here to walk us through what the findings are and what they're seeing in addition to the normal staff.
No, that work. I would say if we're looking at really long meetings, I wouldn't have a problem with starting at 3. If we're looking at 2 hours or less, 4 is fine. But if we're pushing 3 hours, I'd be fine with a 3 o'clock start, just so we're not going too far in the evening.
I don't think we'll go that long with it, just because that can be mentally just taxing, absorbing a lot of information and synthesizing it and giving your feedback. But I'll check with the Berkeley group on how long they foresee these being, and communicate with you and figure out if we need to move it back or if that's better for you all.
I mean, we could leave it at 4 and then decide if it's running too long. The next one we could maybe do at 3. But
Yeah.
it sounds like the easiest thing would just be leave it at 4.
Okay.
What about 2 weeks from now?
April 24th, you should be having a meeting, a regular public hearing meeting.
Okay. Any other business to discuss?
That's whether or not.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'd second it.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, guys.